Avoidants always come back, but, and that's the problem, there's a but here. The but is really about redefining the questions we're asking ourselves. I know whether your ex will come back is the burning question right now. And if you're not sure about how to do, and have a look in the description, I put together a quiz for you to assess whether you have any chance of getting back with your ex or not. By experience, if you had a meaningful relationship and if your score on the quiz is quite high, yes, your ex will reappear. You'll have an opportunity to discuss, to try things out. I'm a strong believer, not because I'm French and that I'm a hopeless romantic, but it's because I see that with many of my clients. There's always an opportunity for a second chance. Always. The question is, what is this second chance? What do we do? And assessing whether now that we are back in touch, now that we are trying things out, assessing what will change, assessing whether this new relationship is better, assessing that we are not living and being attached to a potential rather than to what it is, right? In terms of the dynamic, in terms of the investment. And that's what I want to discuss today in this video. I'll explain everything after the jingle. And so yes, they reconnect usually because that fear of intimacy force them to distance. That fear of commitment, at some stage, they feel, I need my space, right? And sometimes, and most of the time, and you know, again, if you take the quiz, if you're not sure, but it's not a question of feelings, it's a question of safety, right? It's a clash of attachment. And when you break up or when they distance themselves, always, and as a former avoidant, still to this day, I have this tendency to, whenever there's a distance, you process things differently. You start missing the person, you idealize the partner. In the book Attached, he refers that to the Phantom X, for example. And so when you are away from this emotional pursuit, you don't trigger the avoidant partner. They return because they feel safe, right? What's left of the relationship is not the commitment, is not the emotional investment, is the relationship itself. Right? It's the moments that we had, it's the laugh, it's the laughter, the moments that we share, even the intimacy. You know, even as an avoidant, you start to idealize those moments of intimacy that felt overwhelming when they happen. Now, the problem is, again, they are coming back. Great, it's a good starting point. But have they changed? Will the dynamic be different? Because if it's the same, sorry to spoil you the end, it's not going to work. If you get back together and everything remains the same, this relationship won't work, right? So yes, there's work to be done on your end, and I would be more than happy to help you, but there's also work to be done on their end. And that's the thing you need to be very clear. That's the thing you need to be not only clear, but very strict about. So what brings avoidant back? Again, it's not about love, it's not about feelings, it's about regulation, it's about safety, right? As we discussed, whenever you're distant, whenever you don't have that pressure from the commitment or the intimacy, it feels safer because you're not available anymore. They don't feel suffocated, they don't feel you depend on them. Right? And that distance feels like my safe space. As a dismissive avoidant, my safe space is to be on my own, is to distance things from people. So whenever I'm stressed or whenever there's something difficult for me, my default position is to be in my room and deal with it myself. I know it's not the right way of dealing with problems, and I'm working on that and I'm aware of that, but my default response will be to do that. And so that silence and that distance, it seems from an anxious point of view, disrespectful and sort of pushing them away, but it actually helps them. And what happens is for avoidant, they have what we call deactivating strategies. It's this idea of like, we all have a deep need to be attached to a primary attachment figure, but avoidant, they deactivate this attachment. right? And what happens is what we like is, again, whenever we are stressed or triggered, we would deactivate things. I can't deal with this relationship at this stage because I have too much work to do. That's a classic one. My mom passed away and I can't deal with the relationship at the same time. Doesn't make sense from a point of view of if you're secure, if you trust a person, if you have a relationship, and if you want to share life with someone. Of course, your partner will be the right person to help you and deal with this grief, for example. But for avoidance, like, I have to compartmentalize things. I can't do everything at the same time. So again, it's very important if they reappear. The coming back is relief, is testing things. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're ready. So again, be clear on this. And let's test something together. Maybe in the thread of this video, please share your stories so people can hear and learn from other people's stories. Because I have a strong belief that we can also use collective intelligence to solve those problems. Yes, you can ask ChatGPT. Yes, you can look online, but nothing will replace real case, real stories. So yeah, let me know and I will answer if you have any questions for me. Let's share your story and so we can learn from it and give some tips and advice on what we see and the challenge that we have and how we manage to overcome those challenges. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. The key here is about emotional availability. When someone tells you, I miss you, you might feel like, yes, we're back. No, that doesn't mean I'm ready. That doesn't mean I will invest, right? These are two different things. The problem with avoidance, and again, I'm dismissive avoidance, so I know well enough. We have a tendency not to reflect. I said here deeply on breakups, but like on a lot of things, because we have this a bit to numb our emotions, to distract ourselves, to put everything, sweep the dust on the carpet and move forward. And the problem is that when we do that and we avoid discomfort, we don't address things. We don't deal with things, right? They're in the background, but we don't deal with things. And so it's important for you to assess whether they've changed how they approach things, about their self-awareness. It's important to assess the emotional availability, the vulnerability, right? Assessing whether for them it's about emotional safety or emotional excitement. A healthy relationship is based on safety. Yes, love, feelings, passion are important, but really the foundation for long-term healthy and strong relationships is really about safety. And most people fail to recognize this. And they base their relationship decisions on the butterflies they have in their tummy, right? On the how we feel. No, that's important. That's not the only thing that you need to take into account. And so a return is not a proof of growth. You know what you've done. You know you're watching those videos and other videos probably. Maybe you're reading books, maybe you're taking courses, maybe you have a therapist, etc., etc. Now, but what about them? Right? What about... So yeah, the relationship, it's 50-50. You know your investment, you know what you're able to bring to the relationship. What's about them? And so if they come back, it's not about rushing and trying to obviously reduce the time apart. It needs to grow organically and you need to challenge things a little bit. Rather than being like, oh, they're back. We're in touch. And feeling, okay, it's just a question of repairing. No, it's about like challenge things. Don't be thankful that they return. Actually, be the one challenging things. Why now? What's changed? Am I seeing the same patterns, the same cycles? What are they doing? Not the words, what are they doing? I often say to my clients, you're doing the work, right? And I don't feel that they're doing the work, or I don't feel necessarily they're right for you. They have to prove me wrong. That's the only thing that you have to, be in that mindset of like, this is how they treated me. They broke up with me. They didn't explain why. Now they reappear in my life. I don't want to be with someone like this. right? I'm in love, I have feelings, I know we have a potential, I know we could be happy, right? We have that potential. But I don't want to be treated this way. So your point is, what do we be clear on the, that's not going to work out unless you prove me wrong. Right? And that's why you have to learn how to set the right boundaries, how to be clear about what you want. Assess how they handle discomfort or emotional needs. Assess whether they are responsive to your needs, whether they're consistent. It's over time that you can also assess, because avoidant, they are very good at faking it for a couple of months, right? The point is to assess, okay, is it sustainable? Is it consistent? Can I see that actually these changes are more around that inner work, more than just a response, not just to get a form of validation, right? Because sometimes also avoidants like to be loved, right? I used to be very much love bombing my partners when I was in my 20s. I didn't know I was doing it because I loved the validation. I loved being loved, right? But then that didn't mean that I would do the work necessarily to commit, to open myself. And that's why it was very hard for me to have long-term relationships before I did the work and developed this secure attachment style. So again, be really critical. And I know it's very hard because you want to get back together, because you're idealizing the relationship, because you know there's something. And I hope you'll be able to repair. I'm not saying you shouldn't get back with your ex. I'm just saying at what cost. I'm just saying like what needs to change, and be really clear about that. That's what I do with my clients on WhatsApp. We look at not the words, we look at the actions, and we plan accordingly. If you're in touch with your ex now and you're confused, you feel like I'm going in a circle. Yes, maybe there's a part of yours that's your responsibility around the communication, right? And you can address that. But it's very important to be clear. And it's very hard, obviously, to be objective on the situation that you're involved in, especially when it's a loving relationship. So that's what I do with my clients. We look at the situation. We look at planning the next step, assessing whether we see progress or not. And if it's not making any progress, I'm very clear with people. Walk away. It's not working for you. I don't want you to suffer any longer. Yes, be patient. It's important to be patient, to give that person some time to reflect on things, but at the same time, you don't want to wait forever. If you're confused right now and want some help, let me know. There's a link in the description to book a call with me, and we'll discuss about WhatsApp. Especially if you're in touch with them and you're trying to repair things, but it's still very confusing. You know, your friends are telling you, give up, you're wasting your time. But you know deep inside, there's a chance. You know deep inside, you could be happy. And I'll be the one helping you find the right path. And it's quite hard because obviously there's a bit depending on you, but there's also a bit of assessing. And I know, because I've helped now a lot of clients, I know when people are faking it. You know, I know when I see real change and investment. And if I don't see it, I'll be on your side and I'll tell you to walk away. And if you do walk away at that stage, trust me, it will be so much easier, because you know you will do it from a place of certainty and clarity around what you need and what works for you. I hope that will be helpful. Looking forward to discussing with you. Again, have a look in the description to book a call with me, and I'll see you next time. Take care.